So tell us about the political elements of Doctor Who.
Well, I think Doctor Who has always been political, partly from the fact that, like every good science fiction book or film, it kind of reflects contemporary issues. And like a lot of good TV, it works on two levels. Firstly, you know, a level for the kids to understand monsters, adventures, but then kind of more jokes, satire, metaphors for the grown-ups watching. So in the 1970s, you had episodes about environmentalism, about the miners' strike, about Britain entering the EEC,
really?
About feminism. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, right, and we'll come on to something. Do you agree with that, Tom? Does it really work at that sort of political level?
It certainly explores political with a small p issues. It's never been party political remotely, but you know, it's right that in the 1970s there were two episodes, Curse of Peladon and The Monster of Peladon, both of whom, one of which explored entering the EEC, the other one explored the miners' strike, and more recently you've had, you know, aliens in Downing Street. So yeah, there's something there for political anoraks.
Yes, I clearly haven't watched it closely enough. I think we have got some of the pictures, some of the stills. You mentioned the Curse of Peladon there, and the Monster of Peladon. You're laughing. I mean, it doesn't actually look very scary when you're standing there. So this was actually dealing with a small planet being taken into a federation at the time of the UK joining the EEC.
Exactly,
and do you think there was a direct parallel?
Well, there clearly was.
Right.
I mean, it was a big issue that was debated everywhere at the time, and the producers obviously thought, let's just inject some of this into Doctor Who and make it a bit relevant.
OK, well, Matthew, what about the Dalek invasion of Earth? What about that? What was the sort of political... There it is. And that very familiar shot. Not the Daleks, of course, but the Houses of Parliament. Tell us about that one.
Well, that was one of those very sort of contemporary sci-fi science fiction ideas of what if the Nazis had won the war. And all the way through their history, Daleks have often been used as a sort of a metaphor for Nazism within Doctor Who. So, for instance, this idea of biological, ethnic purity, they're always talking about that in various stories, and what happens if the Nazis had invaded, and what would have been the impact on Britain.
What about the Green Death? I quite like the John Pertwee episode. We're going back a little bit, back when I probably first started watching. What was that one about?
Well,
there it is.
It's an iconic episode, partly because of those maggots, which were incidentally made out of condoms.
But Thank you for that extra piece of information.
They were extremely scary, but not only was it about environmental issues, it was actually the first time that a corporate identity, a corporate company became the big bad. So it was all about how big companies manipulate communities, which is the first time that was done.
I'm going to really watch it more closely. So, Matthew Ashton, what do you think it says about society, Doctor Who?
Well, I think it reflects issues in society. I mean, in the 70s, questions were actually asked in the Houses of Parliament about whether it was too violent, too scary, whether it was having a negative impact on children.
Yes.
And then in the 80s, Doctor Who did episodes about that, saying, what if a society did just show people violent TV? Would it lead to revolution?
Well, I've watched it more often with my children now, and it is quite dark. Nicola, were you a fan of Doctor Who? Are you a fan of Doctor Who?
Well, I haven't watched it for about 25 years,
Why
but
not?
when I was a child, I quite liked it. I certainly didn't pick up, I mean, maybe because I was watching it when I was younger, I didn't pick up on all this political stuff behind the scenes.
No, well, that's, of course, because, as Matthew said, it worked at both those levels.
Yeah,
do you think it'll sustain into the future?
It will. It'll always talk about issues that people are interested in. If there's something happening in the wider world, that's going to be injected into any good drama, and the producers of Doctor Who are quite good at doing that.
Favourite Doctor Who?
Matt Smith, actually.
OK. Thank you very much, Matthew Ashton in Nottingham.